ArcheAge launches its Ascension update introducing player nations, Neverwinter announces its 10th expansion and launch plans for the PS4, Paladins gives us a sneak peek at patch 27 coming after Dreamhack, and My.com's new game looks a little bit like Blade and Soul. What's happening, guys? James Blonde here with MMOHuts.com with a quick weekly recap for MMO news and announcements for the week ending June 6th, 2016. And there's not a whole lot of new news this week, a lot of repeat news for stuff we already know about, which tends to happen the week before E3. Bakerman Brad and I will be headed that way this time next week, and we've got some really cool stuff lined up to look forward to coverage-wise. But either way, starting out the news this week, we see the character overview for Riktor, the new hero in Paragon that kind of looks like Apocalypse had a baby with a Decepticon, as somebody pointed out in last week's recap. I totally agree. I haven't got a chance to try him out yet since he was introduced to the game last week, but I can say with the way that the Paragon plays and most of the other characters, his pull ability, Whiplash, and his ultimate Skewer should be pretty satisfying. And from the looks of the overview, this is probably going to be the first hero that they really have to put a major nerf on. It's insane for a tank to be able to assassinate that easily. I can also say that I'm really looking forward to chatting with the devs on Paragon at E3, so you guys should totally shoot me some questions to ask them in the comments below. And likewise, we get the official reveal video for Rose, the new character in Elsword. Earlier last week, we saw the story preview for Rose, which featured her English voiceover. It's kind of nice that that's already in the game. Apparently, Rose was the name granted to her from the Majestic Garden, whose only purpose is to protect the princess. And that name, Rose, represents the strongest person in the Imperial Garden. The story goes on to explain how Rose ended up in Elrios from the Dungeon Fighter Online universe, and from her new launch trailer, her combat style is very familiar, which is great. So yeah, she's been in the Korean version of the game for a little while now, but it's still nice to see how they transition some of her epic skills over to Elsword. Definitely seems like a fun character to play. Also crossing over from last week, Webzen officially launched the first expansion for ASTA, known as Myth 1 Wrath of the Berserkers, introducing the new Roxalali-looking race and the Berserker class that's exclusive to them. Last week I mentioned the Berserkers fight with double swords or axes, but apparently they also get some help from their summoned creature friend, the Cursed Doll. That's not creepy or anything, but it does actually make the class a little bit cooler in my opinion. Plenty of events with rewards happening right now in-game in Celebration. The expansion also raises the level cap to 55 and introduces the new area named Watto, with a new dungeon in the Mountain of Trials filled with new content for players to explore. Hit up the site post at MMOHuts.com for all the details. Speaking of expansions, ArcheAge launched a fairly large expansion this past week, as you might know from Bakerman Brad's overview video. The 2.9 Ascension update, as it's called, introduces huge new bosses to fight, nation building, epic castle building, new updates to arena matchmaking and sieges, the equipment encyclopedia, and Obsidian Tier 7 gear, just to name a few things. One of the major focuses in this update is the player nations, so now highly ranked guilds can begin the process of founding their own nation and standing toe-to-toe with the alliances in Nula and Haranya. Learn a bit more about that and some of the other features in Brad's recent video, as well as the site post at MMOHuts.com. I warn you though, it seems like every video put out for ArcheAge gets a lot of hate. And on that note, you can also build castles and entire towns in Gloria Victis, which has announced finally that it's time to launch on Steam Early Access. This is a medieval fantasy sandbox MMORPG that's been in development for a decent amount of time now, growing and growing. As a low fantasy title, Gloria Victis has very little magic for players to use, and instead players go to battle with classic medieval arms on foot or on horseback. It sort of reminds me of Mortal Online, or maybe even a MMORPG version of Game of Thrones for that matter, which would be pretty awesome. The most recent update tweaked the combat mechanics, balancing an impact of the crafting efficiency of some of the item statistics and the damage dealt with different types of weapons, as well as properties of bows, knives, and short spears. All this to get the game just right for Steam Early Access, which starts this week on June 8th. Also mentioned last week, Skyforge released its Cybernetic Alliance update recently, introducing robot companions, balance updates for all of the classes, and PvE changes and add-ons. You're given access to the Arc Robot Companion, as they're called, after completing the new Symbols quest given at the start of the game, and in the Style Room, you're able to change the color visibility, enable disable voice and animated reactions. These companions are also able to attack your enemies on command, which is always handy. Equipment boosters and enhancement stones have been significantly revised. New D-Series distortion is now available. The number of ring sets available has been increased to 9, and plenty more. Check out the site post at MMOHuts.com for details from the official patch notes. This week's news brings yet another expansion announcement for Neverwinter. Giants will return to the Sword Coast when Neverwinter's Storm King's Thunder strikes on PC this coming August. This just happens to be the 10th expansion for the game, and it has adventurers travel north to Bryn Shander, capital of Icewind Dale, to investigate the sudden presence of frost giants in the region. High-level players will also experience a new campaign, which will take them across 3 new adventure zones and story content from the new expansion. More information is said to be revealed in the future, so definitely stay tuned for that. PWE also announced Neverwinter is headed to the PlayStation 4 this summer. They kind of re-announced that. We still don't have an exact date just yet, but apparently it's going to be this summer, probably around August, when the 10th expansion is going to release for the PC. The PlayStation 4 version is going to launch with 9 expansions. Not bad. Next up, even more expansions going live this past week. Swordsman Online's expansion Lone Wanderer is now live as of June 2nd. I've already mentioned in the past the new Falconer class increased the level cap, the 99, and the glass weapons, but this new expansion also brings in Scenery Stones, a new character improvement system that makes them stronger than ever, the new free-for-all PvP area, Ebonwood Cliff, and the new level 33 player instance, Mystics of Peach Valley, where players can earn XP and new Scenery Stones. These are just a few of the new features in the expansion. Head over to the side post to learn more. So in addition to Orcs Must Die Unchained's new crafting materials rework I mentioned last week, later this past week, Robot Entertainment introduced a fairly large update that apparently makes minions move faster and take more damage from players' assaults, and hero damage bonuses make players' weapons hit harder and their magic pack more punch. The minion waves on all survival battlegrounds are rebalanced to be more exciting for new players, as well as give high-level players a greater challenge to overcome. And to top it all off, the new Banquet Hall Survival Battleground is a close-quarters, smaller map with a simple layout that is a little bit more reminiscent of the classic Orcs Must Die 1 and 2. This update also happens to introduce a new hero, Bloodspike the Brutal, who sports a murderous set of unique abilities and has returned to the world of Unchained to wreak havoc on any hero or minion who would stand between him and his rifts. Fairly decent-sized update, but it's also really nice to see that Robot Entertainment is listening to its community. Interesting enough, Paladins is pausing the updates for its closed beta for the next couple of weeks, but still offering up a sneak peek at patch 27. With Dreamhack coming up soon, the $100,000 Paladins Founders Tournament is about to take place, and in honor of that, they are not planning to patch the game for the next few weeks to keep a stable environment for the players practicing for the tournament. Makes sense. But as for patch 27, the new champion Bomb King is headed to the game. He hasn't exactly been revealed just yet. We don't know what he looks like or anything like that, but we do have a guess as to what he does. His name is Bomb King, so clearly he's the master of knives and stabbing weapons. As always, a major feature is being removed or changed. They seem to do that pretty often. This time, they're removing the specialty cards they introduced to the game right before the Paladins YouTuber tournament. These cards are going to be integrated back into the deck building option, and some of them will actually be directly applied to the character's base build. So yeah, Barrack will always be able to make 2 turrets to murder you with. Such a shame, really. And lastly, we see some changes to the matchmaking UI that, and I hate to say it, look awfully close to Overwatch. Come on, guys. Stay tuned the next couple of weeks for more details on what's coming to Paladins post-Dreamhack. As a reminder, Riders of Icarus is finishing up its 3rd and final closed beta tomorrow, June 7th, and with that, the next time you're actually going to have the opportunity to try the game is on July 6th when the open beta starts, unless of course you pick up a Founders Pack. Then you'll have a week's head start in the open beta along with some nice goodies from the packs themselves, and potentially you'll have the chance to win a trip for you and a friend to Dragon Con along with an Alienware gaming rig. That's kind of nice. The game itself is really fun if you're looking for the type of MMORPG that is what Dragonmon Hunter or Dragon's Prophet should have been. Check out my first look to get a good feel for the game, otherwise look forward to trying it out yourself in early July. And finally, for our last bit of news in this somewhat short recap, if you like Blade and Soul, you might like this as well. My.com announced recently that it plans to bring Revelation Online to the West. This is an Oriental Fantasy-themed MMORPG created by NetEase that gives players access to features such as Winged Flight, which honestly looks really cool in the new trailer you see playing here, story-driven open-world PvP action, and more. The other cool part about the flight mechanic is that the world has no boundaries, so you can literally climb to the top of the world. Not bad. The gameplay and art style looks a lot like Blade and Soul. I can't speak for the combat just yet, but from the announcement trailer, the game itself looks pretty nice. Check out the announcement trailer along with the game profile at MMOHuts.com. Otherwise, you can already sign up for beta, which is scheduled to happen later this fall. Anyway, guys, that's about it for all the major MMO news and announcements for this week. Like always, if you're looking for more information regarding the news featured in the recap, check the links in the description below or head over to MMOHuts.com for all the latest and greatest gaming news. Feel free to discuss the news in the comments below and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. But until next time, guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.